We're going to take up today is going to be Senate Bill 920. This is a meeting of the Ways and Means Early Childhood Subcommittee. And this bill is before us. We passed House Bill 995, which was the cross-file to this bill. Between the time that we cross-filed it and we got to looking at it, MSDE raised significant concerns about some of the finances involved. I'm going to talk quickly about what's in the bill and talk about what we're keeping and what we're changing in it. The bill had four major thrusts. One was that students who apply for the early childhood or for the child care scholarship had to go through an application process, which would involve as much as 30 to 60 days between the time they applied and the time that they were vetted, or even when oftentimes they would get the application, it would take them a couple of weeks to get it filled out. It's quite a difficult form to fill out. And so what would often happen is they couldn't afford child care during that time and they wouldn't get it. And oftentimes then they wouldn't turn in the forms because they weren't sure they were eligible. So the first part of this bill was to set up a situation where we will let those people presumptively, we will presume that they qualify and we will begin to give them the money for that. They will apply and establish an amount of money that they make. We feel that in most cases we'll find that they qualify, and if they do, then the federal and state money would be able to would be perfectly fine that we did it at the start. We don't have to have the rubber stamp on their application. If they qualified at the beginning of the application process, they're fine. A few will default, and therein lies the problem. Some people don't finish filling out their forms. We're hopeful more will fill them out because they will be in a child care where the child care might say, hey, you haven't finished your forms yet, that sort of thing. But a few will actually have misrepresented or misunderstood, and they will find they don't qualify. In that case, that money will have to be picked up. And MSDE was getting really antsy about the amount of money because we weren't sure exactly what that would be. So we're going to take that part of the bill and we are going to delay the implementation of it until July of 2023. It's almost a little over a year away now. And the other part of the bill, then the second part is we're going to have them do a study of this concept and how much money they think will actually be involved, and if they think that we will be indemnified for money, or if we think it'll go pretty smoothly, and get an idea of what really they need to think about. MSDE needs to think about budgeting for, and they can also think about where they can find the money. They can come to us and we can do it, but they could also go to ARPA funds. There's a number of other ways. And so we're going to have them think creatively about ways to do that. We also will probably put something in here that says if there's extra money needed, we'll get the governor to put it at the back of the budget. It looks like at most it would be about $6 million. The sponsor of the bill feels like that's an overestimate. And like I said, we don't really know. So we're delaying, but we're planning to go forward and we're going to put it in the bill. So those are two of the amendments. One is that we delay the implementation. The other one is that we're going to add some reporting about this program. The other two parts that we're keeping, one is a similar thing where people who qualify for the early childhood child care subsidy pay a copay depending on their salary level. We are actually increasing that threshold, but at the same time, people who qualify for a list of government subsidies and government entitlements probably already qualify. And even if they don't, we feel like we should be helping them out if they're on WIC or something like that, we should help them. And so it gets rid of the copay for them. It's not very much, and we already have money in the budget and in the bill for that. It's about $2 million. And MSDE says they're raring to go on this one, and they think they can do this one. So that's going to be implemented in July of 2022. That one's going to go right up at the beginning of the summer here, at the time we start bills. The other major thrust of the bill was that for people to participate in this program and qualify, one of the requirements that sort of drifts down from the federal level, but we don't have to do it, is that they have to be in the process. If they are looking for child support, they have to demonstrate that they are actively pursuing child support in order to qualify. We're taking that out. They're probably actively pursuing it anyway because they need the money, but we don't want that to prevent them from getting a child care subsidy. So you have heard the bill. There are a few amendments that I've mentioned. I can take questions or I can take a motion generally on the amendments, whatever you guys like. And Alistair, I'm sorry, there you are. He rushed in, probably almost had an accident. That's why we got started a minute late too. Katie was a second late getting here too. Is there anything that I didn't cover that needs to be clarified on that?
I came in a little late, but I think you covered everything.
Okay, great. Any questions? Or I'll take a motion if nobody has questions. Delegate Lasanti, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. How are you, Mr. Chairman?
It's
I
good to
turned my
see you.
camera on if I'm going to talk.
Thank you.
Question, the part about the applying for the application process and it being complicated.
Yes,
Is there, what can we do with that? I mean,
that's an excellent question, and I forgot to
mean,
mention something. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
Part
let's
of
start
that
there.
study, actually, Alistair, I think you'll back me up on this, and I didn't mention it. Part of that study and this report they have to give us by December 1st is to find a way to simplify that process, okay?
Okay.
To actually streamline it a bit so that it doesn't, it also doesn't put people off from completing the process, because apparently it is rather cumbersome right now.
Okay. I mean, couldn't it be something just as simple as having an online training where the people in the childcare facility, like one person could be responsible for that. Obviously, there's probably some person that's responsible for collecting the form that could be trained with MSC, so that there's like a caseworker in the childcare facility that can say, then when Mrs. Smith comes in and says, I really can't, I'm having trouble with this form. Hey, this is what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, just like we do with constituent services in all this, dealing with just about any permit and any application in state government.
I think it's a pretty good idea, actually. Probably we'd have to vet it with MSC a lot more at this late stage, but we can put
Sure.
that in as part of the study. Can they look into a way to come up with some sort of basic training that people can access when they first do this, so they're not kind of out on the edge like that.
So it's
Alistair, we
streamlining
could
and
probably
have some help. Yep.
Also, we could probably add that in, couldn't we, as part of what they investigate? Great. Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's with your permission, I've laid out a bunch of amendments, and unless we want to separate them out, I'm going to add that as part of our amendments to this.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Delegate Bowler, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Good.
I'd like to weigh in on that. I don't think that is a good idea to put the burden of taking care of these scholarships onto somebody that works at these facilities. I know enough about these facilities that these folks are overburdened with paperwork now as it is. And not only are they not overburdened with it, but the authorities never respond to them in many cases. I've had, as I've mentioned before, my wife runs a school and they do provide daycare as part of that. And she went months without even getting them to redo her certification. And then when they came around to do it, they said, well, you hadn't sent anything in. And she's like, yes, I have. And she just went through this the other day again, where she does the job, sends in the paperwork, and she gets somebody new. That's the other problem on the other side, is that these folks are like a revolving door. And every time somebody new comes in, they ask for all this paperwork again. And so I think it's a bad idea that we would put that burden on the child care centers. They have plenty to do, lots of rules, lots of regulation, lots of paperwork that they have to fill out now. I think the process should be simplified on the other side and not on making it difficult for them.
Yeah, and I thank you for that. This isn't, of course, about them certifying themselves. This is about them helping people. But you're right. I don't think there was any suggestion that this amendment would require them to do something. I believe Delegate Lasanti suggested that MSDE come up with something, that they take a look at the possibility of coming up with something that a child care, because they want to keep these people, that they say, hey, here you are. You're getting money to come here. We want you to stay. And this is great. Here's how you do the application. We don't want to lose you. And so they could just say, there's an online training, give them a URL. It would be in their best interest, but we wouldn't make it. Well, first of all, we're not doing it right now, but I don't think we'd make it required. We just make it permissible for them to help people.
Well, I just
help
wanted,
families, help families do that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. But I just wanted to point that out. I knew it wasn't about certification, but I'm just saying in their day-to-day operation of trying to reach out, to those who are in charge of all this, they just don't respond. And to put this in there is going to be another thing that they're going to have to deal with. and it'll be the same thing. These applications will back up, and they'll just keep asking, where are the application? And they'll be helping these people to get it in. They don't have that kind of time. I'm telling you.
Thank you,
they really
Delegate
don't.
Butler. Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank
Delegate
you.
Wilkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't say this too often, but I am 100% in agreement with Delegate Butler. I do not think that we should put any sort of burden on the child care provider to have to walk through an application, figure out the application, help the parent walk through the application. I think that that's something that on the MSDE level, they need to simplify the application. Maybe they need to provide like a little online, little YouTube video of how to get it through, a little FAQ if they don't have one. But my point, I think this is the point that Delegate Butler is trying to make, is that it absolutely should not be put any sort of burden or responsibility on a child care provider on top of everything that they're doing to also try to walk people through filling out the application. I think that that's too much, and I do not think that we include that.
Well, thank you, Delegate Wilkins. If you and Delegate Butler are agreeing, we have to listen pretty carefully here. I want to say that the amendment that was suggested was just that MSD look into studying ways of making more information available to people. The thought is that child cares will voluntarily help people because they'll want to keep them as part of their business. But I don't think there is any suggestion we put a requirement on here. Certainly, at this stage of the game, there would be no requirement put on. That would be something we might do in the future, but it sounds like we definitely will not. So I think adding in that MSD should explore ways to help child cares, give people information, and just find out what they come up with as part of that. And it's really just part of their report is all that would be in this case. So I hope that works. Yeah, go ahead.
I was in motion, so I heard a lot of what we are taking out and studying, but I didn't really hear the part about what is actually left in the bill other than the things that we're studying. Are there also other parts of the bill that will actually go into place? I'm sorry, if you don't mind.
I'll do it in brief because everybody's heard it once, but I'll do it quickly. We're keeping the presumptive eligibility, but we're pushing it back until July of 2023. We're keeping the voiding of the co-payment for people who are in certain entitlement programs, and that's going to go in July of 2022. We are keeping the non-requirement that somebody be pursuing child support to be able to qualify for child care scholarship. And then we're adding in some stats and reporting that we'll need by December 1st in case there's something we need to do next session, because we're all going to be back, right? So some of us will be, and some of us have made other decisions, but nonetheless, those of us who want to be back will be here. So that's what we got. And the suggestion by Delegate Asante was just that as part of the reporting, we look into ways to make the information more available to people who are applying, but not, I don't think it was suggested, and obviously nothing in this will call for that. MSDE might say, well, we should require it, but I don't think we would go along with that if I'm hearing us correctly. But that's for another year. So how's that? Is that a good rundown for you? Yes. All right, Delegate Griffith.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to put on the record for future reference related to this, one of my concerns would be, we've taken a lot of steps here trying to create more opportunities for childcare, but with the limited access right now, and childcares have a lot of ability to pick and choose and make some decisions. If this is something we decide to mandate down the road, they may decide to not, want to invite these folks that they're being mandated to help through the process into their child cares. I know it's not necessarily fair, but as private companies have that right. And so just if this conversation ever comes up in the future, I just want that on the record.
Thank you. Delegate Guyton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I'm still off because I'm just getting to the hotel. I appreciate the rundown of the bill. So my concern is with an example that you gave when you were describing the bill the first time, and I just wanted to clarify it. I think generally this is a really good idea. One of the things that you did say might be a possibility, and I want to make sure I understood it correctly, was that someone might get this money sort of proactively and then not actually fill out the complete form to get the child care scholarship. I wonder, though, if that's really putting everyone in a bad situation, because the child care centers don't want people who at least haven't finished the process to take up spaces that then they might have to leave. Is there some way we can at least determine that they have actually filled out the form?
No,
and completed that
the point of the bill is that we will presumptively assume that they're going to fill out the form and that they will qualify. So the bill is, we're going to let you in right now. We get two pieces of information from them. They sign something saying they think they qualify based on what they see in front of them and what's there. And then they declare what their income is so that we can get a sense of where they are on the threshold. And we begin letting them come to a child care at that point.
Sure. And I have no problem with the presumption of qualification. That's totally fine. And I think that's really what this bill should be doing. I do have a problem with the presumption that they will actually fill out the form. I don't know why we can't require them to apply, but continue to let them go. Or
the reason for that, as I understand, is that the application
before they get their final okay. I totally see the reason for that part.
My understanding is that it's as we said, it's an onerous form, so it can take people a week or two to actually get the forms and get them filled out and get the information they need and put it on there. So what typically happens then is people don't have childcare. These are people who might not have other bandwidth in their lives, and so then they don't fill out the forms at all. They just sort of give up. And so we're trying to get them in the system. And according to what we hear, and that's what part of the report is, because we're not doing this yet. According to the report, we're going to find very few people sort of defaulting, if you will. Mm-hmm. And we won't, like I said, we're not starting this until July of 2023 for the very reason that there's some lack of sureness about how this will pan out. And we're going to require MSDE to do a little study on this and find out what they think will happen.
Sure.
I just add really, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Also, finish answering the question for me, please.
I was just going to say, I think that in talking to MSDE, it might be the case that the presumptive eligibility to start the process would be filling out part of the form. And so they would be in the process of filling out the form already. But like Delegate Ebersol said, it's at the current time very onerous, like filing your taxes or something. So they're given a little bit of leeway to finish.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alistair, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my last question would be, if it's okay, have we considered putting a timeline on that? So they have not actually done this in, say, 2 weeks after they've started childcare, and maybe that's already in the bill. But
yeah, we didn't give you all the details, but I believe that is in there.
Yeah, there's a 15-day timeline, but they are guaranteed, because 15 days of childcare is not very much. There's a 60-day. Once you presumptively qualify, you get 60 days of childcare.
Because MSDE frequently takes a while to vet it once they get it. It takes a while also then, even after it's been handed in. I will also say, Delegate Boatler and Delegate Wilkins, to your concerns about childcares, we also have something in the bill saying how quickly the comptroller has to get them the money. There's what is it? I forget, 10 days? Is that right, Alistair?
It's 15 days.
15 days. Within 15 days, they have to begin getting their payments from the comptroller. We don't want them waiting around. So we put a requirement in there too, that they get paid if they're participating in the child care scholarship, on any level, but on this one also. Guyton, your hand is still up, but I'm assuming you just didn't take it down. Delegate Wilkins.
Yes. Hello again, everyone. I just was wondering who is going to be part of the study. Is it just MSDE? Because I would actually be a bit concerned if it's just them studying it. They already seem to have some concerns. And I think that it's important that the providers are at the table, and that either just at least one organization, because the whole point of this is helping and supporting individuals who are having trouble with the form. So they should be at the table, if not directly, then an organization like Cash Campaign or another organization that works with, individuals who might be, you trying to utilize the form. I don't know that it makes sense for just MSDE to study it. So I would just suggest that even if it's just in consultation, doesn't have to be like a formal thing, but I just want to make sure that providers and more people who are actually impacted are also a part of it.
That is in fact the case, Delegate. So they have to consult with people under the study, but they are not required to appoint people. And it's kind of a tug of war between how quickly we can get this done so that it's in line for next session, so that this is ready versus making sure that they consult with people, but they're required to consult with experts in the field along with experts in other states who have engaged in similar processes with the Child Care Development Fund.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Lasanti.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for clarifying what I said, because it
Okay.
got lost somewhere in the translation.
There was some
But-
doubt,
but
and
Right.
either I clarified what you said or I changed it. But
No,
now,
you were spot on. But my question is, the form that we're talking about, is that one that has been created already? Is that a federal form? Is it one that MSEA that the state made? What is this form?
Alistair, I'm going to let you take that one, if you know, because I
Yes, it is made by the state. So this money is federal money that requires under federal law. There's Child Care Development Fund, which includes many parts, but specific services for parents of low income who are employed or seeking employment or getting educated.
Okay.
And there are federal regulations that require the state to submit a plan that includes very specified information on how they're going to award those funds. So the actual form that the state uses is devised by the state, but there are federal requirements that certain data has to be collected. So there's some limit to how much it can be simplified, but hopefully right now it's about 9 pages or something. And it's fairly detailed. Like I took a look at it and it was, I couldn't fill it out immediately.
I think at the end of the day, Mr. Chairman, our directive, if you will, that needs to come out of this bill is really simple. This is an administrative function, right? Very simple administrative function. This needs to be a form that is not uber complicated. It has to be simplified. It has to be able to be administered in a reasonable way. And whatever they have to do to get that done in a timely fashion is what they have to do. I mean, we shouldn't overcomplicate a process that is there to help families get access to childcare. That's just my point.
All right. I don't see any other hands up. We have a handful of amendments. If we want to take them as a group, I'd be happy to do that. The amendments are that we're going to push back the date on the presumptive eligibility. We're going to add a few additional reporting requirements in there. The other two things we're actually just keeping at this point. Alistair, were there any other small changes that are worth mentioning at this point that we want to put in that are in that amendment?
Did you talk about the fund piece?
No, I didn't. So yeah, there will be, go ahead, you do it. You got it.
So in order to, because federal law does not allow you to use these funds to pay providers.
This is for the people who default, you're talking
pay about. For people who are not ultimately eligible, we had to create a state fund to pay for those people that will then be reimbursed as sort of revolving loan by the federal funds once those people are found to be eligible. So there's a creation of that fund, which was not in the House version of the bill.
Makes sense. All right. Do I have a motion on all the amendments, or does anybody want to separate one out? I'll take a motion on all the amendments if we can.
Move the amendment.
Thank you, Delegate Boatler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Delegate Lasanti. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor of the amendments, signify by raising your hand if I can see you, or saying aye if I can't.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. And on the bill as amended.
Move the bill.
Thank you, Delegate Boatler. Do I have a second? Seconded. Bill's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor of House Senate Bill 920 as amended, signify by saying aye. Or raising your hand if you're on camera. I can see you. That's great. Okay, that carries unanimously. This is the only one we're doing today, but I appreciate everyone's comments. I didn't expect this healthy a conversation, but everything that was said was valuable. So thanks a lot. We really needed to work on this one a little bit, make sure everybody understood. It's a pretty big deal. It's the only one of the child care package that actually addresses the needs of families and students. A lot of the others go to child cares, and that's perfectly valuable and perfectly healthy. But we also needed a bill we thought that helped families with being able to afford childcare, and hopefully both parts of this bill, all parts of this bill will do that. So thank you all very much. Keep your ear to the ground. We may be meeting later today or again tomorrow morning. Talk to you soon. Cheers.